novel is set in the country of Glome. Okay, where is that?
On the river Shenandoah.
On the River Shenandoah, or the River Shenandoah runs through it. Okay, where else?
East of something.
Okay, let's put it another way. It's north of somewhere.
Greece.
Greece. It's north of Greece. Okay, so it is to the ancient Greeks, land of the barbarians. Because to the ancient Greeks, if you weren't Greek, you were barbarian. When an ancient Greek heard a speaker of another culture talk, essentially what we're told they heard is something like barbar. That's where we get the phrase or the word barbarian from. All they heard was barbar, kind of a thing. Okay? So Glome is north of that. We're not told how far north. We're just told it's north. Okay? When the novel opens, we have a king. He has a wife. And newborn son who dies has another wife, gets another wife. Young girl, she gets pregnant. She has a daughter. That daughter's named Istra or Psyche. Okay? She has two elder sisters. Arul, who is the narrator of Till We Have Faces. Middle sister, Redival or Redival, however you want to pronounce it, doesn't matter to me. Okay? And he has a slave who is nicknamed the Fox. Okay? What nationality, country, whatever is he from? He's Greek. Okay? So the Fox is Greek. When is this set? 20th century? No, obviously not.
A pretty good amount of time before Jesus.
Probably in the classical period, before Christ. Maybe around the time of Socrates and Aristotle and Plato, that is 5th, 4th century BC, possibly earlier than that. Okay, we're not given a strict narrow time frame. Okay, so that's the general setting. Look how it begins. I'm going to try to get us through. I won't promise. Yeah, I will promise. I'm going to try to get us up through about page 76. That's 1/4 of the book today. Okay? Notice how it starts. I'm old now and have not much to fear from the anger of gods. Put that in modern language. I got nothing left to lose. They can't touch me. I mean, yes, they can. The speaker's not saying, I am impervious to the gods. The speaker is saying, I'm so old, do whatever you want. I don't give a, I don't care. Okay? I have no husband nor child, nor hardly a friend through whom they can hurt me. What's the speaker saying about the gods? They're not good. Louder.
They have intentions to hurt people.
They have intentions to hurt people. Notice, no husband, no child, hardly even any friends. What? Through whom they can hurt me. The speaker is saying, the gods and I, we don't mix well. We don't get along. And if I had a husband or child, speaker's obviously what? Female. Okay? Or friends, the gods would do what with those individuals?
Use them against me to hurt you.
Use them against me. Now, that doesn't mean the gods would turn them against me. They would use them for what? Leverage. Like, I can't get at Rashid, so what am I going to do instead? I'm going to kidnap his cat, or I'm going to catnap his cat and kill it. Or I'm going to take his sister or girlfriend or father or whatever and do what? Torture that individual. Why? Because that gets at me. Yeah, hurts that person too, obviously. Okay? But it's designed to what? Get it? Somebody else. Okay? My body, this lean carrion that still has to be washed and fed and have clothes hung about it daily with so many changes. They can kill it as they please. Notice, that still has to be fed. What's the speaker telling us the speaker would kind of like to happen?
Die.
I just want to die. I just want to die. Suicide, apparently, the very phrase comes from Greek, is not an option. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the book because the speaker would have done it long ago. The succession is provided for. My crown passes to my nephew. Okay? Therefore, for all of these reasons, I am free from fear. I will write in this book, but no one who has happiness would dare to write. Notice, no one who has happiness. Why would no one who has happiness? Not no one who is happy. No one who has happiness. Why would no one who has happiness write this book? What is she essentially doing? She's throwing down the gauntlet. She's challenging the gods. She's saying, because you can't hurt me, I'm going to what? I'm going to write this book. I'm going to, louder? I'm going to expose you. Okay? I'm going to say everything I know and think about you. I will accuse the gods, especially the God who lives on the gray mountains. Okay? Accuse. It's loaded language. This is legal terminology. I am bringing suit against the gods. What do the gods supposedly then need to do? Smack her. Louder. Defend themselves. Do we have an example of this somehow in literature of Western culture? Yeah, we do. It's a book of the Old Testament. It's called Job. What happens in the book of Job? Anybody know? There's a guy named Job. We're told at the beginning. He's righteous in God's eyes. God loves him. Job is blessed. I mean, he's filthy, stinking rich. He's got a ton of kids. Okay? And we're told, this will be very brief, periodically, every now and then, the sons of God come before God and kind of give an accounting of what they've been doing. The sons of God are angelic beings. Included in them is Satan. Now, this is kind of interesting little pulling of the curtain back, because what does it imply? You know, popular mythology, popular consciousness is Satan's down there in hell and God's up here in heaven and never the twain do meet. The book of Job kind of implies, no, Satan's got regular meetings with God. And he goes before him, and God says, so Satan, what you been up to? And he tells him, and God says, notice, by the way, God says, look at my servant Job. God brings Job to Satan's attention. Okay? It's not the other way around. Job says, yeah, well, he'd curse you to your face if you didn't bless him so much. Okay, I'll take that bet, God essentially says. You can touch his livestock, you can touch his wealth, but you can't touch Job personally or his family. Satan goes, wipes out everything he owns. Goes back to heaven. God says, look at my servant Job. He is faithful. Yeah, well, let me touch his family. Okay, you can touch his family, but you can't touch him personally. Satan goes down, oof, kills all of his children. Goes back to heaven. Still faithful. Yeah, well, if you'd let me touch him personally, in his body, God says, okay. Give him AIDS, you know. Give him the whatever BC year this is of AIDS, essentially. You can touch his body, but you can't kill him. Satan goes, okay. He goes down, and he gives Job essentially the 1000 BC version of AIDS. Open sores and boils and Job sits there, he goes and finds a pile of ashes, he sits in the ashes, and he scrapes these sores with a broken potsherd. right? And his wife comes to him and says, Job, what the hell, man? Curse God and die. He says, though he slay me, yet will I serve him. God's up there going, way to go, man. That's my buddy. Right? The rest of the book involves, we don't see back in heaven anymore. Okay? But it involves three friends coming to Job, trying to comfort him. What do those three friends say? No, they don't tell him to curse God. They tell him, Job, you know why this has happened to you? Because you're a sinner. You've done something wrong. They're not privy to what we are to. They haven't seen the little interviews in heaven. They don't know that this is just, a contest of wills, per se. But it's not really a contest, because what is Satan to God? A bug. Insignificant, right? It's not really a contest. This is God proving Job. That is, testing Job's faithfulness. God knows Job will be faithful. There's no doubt about it from God's perspective. Satan doesn't believe it. Why? Because Satan doesn't believe anything. Okay? So the three friends come and they say, this is because of your sin. And he's like, what have I done? Okay? Finally, another guy comes in. He says, you three shut up. It's not his fault. But he does say something to Job. He does say, Job, there is one problem with you. You're not very humble. And Job's like, I challenge God. I want God to come tell me why this is happening. What has Job just said? Why me, God? All the kids who survived in Parkland, Florida, especially those who were in rooms where others got shot, or those who were in the rooms where, for example, those 3 junior ROTC students, all 15 years old, stood and held the doors shut while the idiot shot through them and killed them. Okay? Those kids have got to be wondering, why me? Why did I live and not those people? Okay? So Job asked that question. And guess what happens? He's essentially saying, okay, God, you and me, let's have a sit down. You tell me why this is happening. And God shows up. He doesn't show up like this. He shows up in a tornado. And out of the tornado, a voice speaks. What do you think God says? Has anybody ever read the book of Job?
He's happy with him, or at some point he gets happy with him.
Well, kind of. He essentially says, Job, question number 1 on your final exam. Where were you when I made the world? Can't answer that one. Okay. Question 2. Where were you when I came up with the snowflake? No, can't answer. Where were you when I thought of the hippopotamus? Where were you? All the way down the line. What's Job's answer every time? Wasn't there. Can't answer that. What's God's point? Who the hell do you think you are? Asking me why I do or allow certain things to happen. You are what in my hands? Clay. You are clay. Okay, you're living clay. I gave you a soul. But, buddy, you are clay. You are wood to a woodworker. Sometimes a woodworker has to do what with the wood? Throw it away. Sometimes the wood's no good. Okay? The whole point is, the ways of God are mysterious. We can't answer everything. Rule doesn't know the book of Job. She doesn't have that experience. She doesn't have Greek philosophy entirely. She has some of it from the fox, which does try to answer somewhat why bad things happen. So she is saying, okay, gods, you got to answer these charges of mine. So what are the charges? Well, she says, I'm going to tell everything the God of the Gray Mountain has done to me from the very beginning. as if I were making my complaint of him before a judge. Well, she's not aware at the time when she writes this, she is making a complaint before a judge. Who's the judge? The God of the Gray Mountain. So she says, but there is no judge between gods and men, and the God of the mountain will not answer me. Terrors and plagues are not an answer. Now, this is C.S. Lewis, okay, essentially saying, the way God answers in the book of Job, that won't cut it here. Okay? Remember the other day I mentioned Lewis had written a variety of books, screw tape letters, about the temptation of a human by a couple of devils and how they want to get that human to come down to hell. Okay? He writes that in 39. Then he writes The Problem of Pain, 1940 or so. Then he writes Mere Christianity, where he tries to say what Christianity is all about. All of this is very much up here. It's very rational and logical. It doesn't answer the problems of the heart. This is getting to the problems of the heart. Okay? But how's she doing it? She's saying, I want answers. I want logical reasons. We could jump to the end. Because guess what she's not going to get? She's not going to get logical answers or reasons. She is going to get, essentially, terrors and plagues. And yet by the end of the novel, the terrors and plagues and other things kind of like that are much more specific and concrete, they do answer her. They do satisfy how do I want to put it? The longings of her heart. Okay? So, she tells us why she's writing in Greek. It's what her old master taught her. And she goes on and says, I'm the eldest daughter of Trom. Okay? And I'm going to skip a bunch. You know, she mentions her nurse and such, the nurse who raises them. And page 8. The fox comes to them and starts to teach him stuff. And she teaches him, bottom of page 7, about Ungit, the local goddess, the goddess of gloom. Okay, and what is Ungit? Equal to Aphrodite. How does Ungit appear to the people of gloom? She's a rock.
Rock, yeah.
What kind of rock? It's very specific. Statue without hands or head. Okay, so pretty much it. What's the rock made of? It's a meteorite. It's a meteorite. Okay? No, notice. No hands, no head. Doesn't have human form, therefore. But they talk about it as a her. Okay? So, he then tells her, the fox tells her about Aphrodite. She's explained to him about Ungit, and he says, oh, what you call Ungit up here in Gloom, down in Greece, we call Aphrodite. Who's Aphrodite?
Goddess of love.
Goddess of love and beauty. A little bit more than that. I mean, love, beauty. What do you mean by love? Is it platonic love? No, it's sexual, erotic love. Okay? And she's really jealous. The whole Trojan War essentially gets launched because of her. Why? Because Helen of Troy is compared with Aphrodite's beauty. And then Paris captures her and, takes her off and all that kind of stuff. Okay? So, page 8, he talks about Aphrodite being in love with the Prince Anchises, etc., etc. And the fox then says, after telling the myth, he says, not that this ever really happened. don't get me wrong here, Arul. It's only lies of poets. Lies of poets, child. Now, we've heard that before, right? In Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, he mentions a friend who said myth or stories, fairy stories, were nothing but lies breathed through silver. Silver edged or plated lies. Lies nonetheless, but what kind of lies? Those are pretty lies, man. Those are the lies you like to hear. But they're still lies. They're false at their very heart. Not in accordance with nature. Why is it not in accordance with nature? Well, later on, because he's going to talk about the divine nature. Okay? And he's going to say that the divine nature is not jealous. Real divinity doesn't get jealous. Okay? But he's also going to admit something else. There is no real. There is no real divinity. The fox doesn't really believe that there are gods, that there is anything supernatural. Super means what there? Above nature. Okay? For him, this is it. All right? This is everything there is. All right? So, I'm going to skip some more. Chapter 2, she mentions father's second wife. And what happens? She has a girl. Girls, 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 he says. Page 16. He's tired of girls. Why? Patriarchal society. Gotta have a son to pass on the kingship. That's why. Okay? And now one girl more. Is there no end to it? Page 16. Is there a plague of girls that the gods send me this flood of them? In other words, are there so many girls in heaven that the gods are trying to empty it out? So, we'll send one down here to Trom. And he sees faces all around him. Everybody's looking at him. Why? He's the king. Yeah, yes, sir. And we're told, page 16, bottom of the page. Suddenly the king flung up his hand, stamped and cried, "Faces, faces, faces. What are you all gaping at? It'd make a man mad. Get out of there." Okay? So they leave. And the Greek thinks about leaving. Arul tries to encourage him to leave. And he says, "I can't, because if I'm caught, I'm going to go off to the mines and I'll suffer, etc., etc." Okay? She says, he says to her, "That's foolishness. They would think I was stealing you to sell," because she wants to leave also. "And help me you shall. Down by the river, you know the little plant with the purple spots on its stalk? It's the roots of it I need." She says, "The poison?" "Yes. Don't cry. Have I not told you often that to depart from life of a man's own will, when there's good reason, is one of the things that's according to nature?" Okay? This is a Greek idea. This is foreign to Glome. He's saying, if I can take myself out at my timing, at my will, that is according to nature. That's how things should be. Okay? She replies, bottom of page 17, "They say that those who go that way lie wallowing in filth." In other words, those who die by suicide, what? Suffer eternally. Because she mentions the land of the dead. Are you also still a barbarian? Are you also still a Glomian, a Glomite, a Glomund? I don't know. Gloman? What's he say? At death, we are resolved into our elements. Resolved, distilled, broken down. What are our elements? Well, back then, earth, air, fire, water is what they thought our elements were. Now we know them to be atoms. Okay? So what happens to the we, or the me, that speaks out of these elements? It dissipates too. There is no soul. There's nothing after death. Okay? So he says, shall I accept birth and cavil at? And she goes, I know. But do you really in your heart believe nothing of what is said of the gods and those below? You do. You're trembling. Right? What has she just caught him in? Hypocrisy. Why? It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction between his head and his heart. His head tells him what? Gods don't exist. Soul doesn't exist. Nothing happens after you die. Okay? If that's true, then why does he tremble when he thinks of death? If that's true, then why are people afraid to go through the door? Why do we have an entire billion-dollar industries built around trying to make us believe I can be forever young? I don't have to age. I can get, enough plastic to cover Peck Hall, put on my face to make me look young. Weirdly. Just look at some celebrities who were young in the 70s, and they still want to be young today. Okay? You can't do that. So his heart is not in sync with his head. His body is not in sync with his thoughts. He's living a contradiction. He says, that's my disgrace. I needn't let it shake the God within me. Have I not already... What does he mean, the God within me? Greek term, demon, sometimes spelled this way. It's the word from which we get demon. But modern English demon has all kinds of negative connotations, right? You think, horns, tail, pitchfork. It's not what this means. This means kind of ruling spirit, or your genius. The thing inside you that tells you what you ought to be or become. And everything, every animate thing has one of these. Right? An acorn has one of these. It's the thing in the acorn that tells the acorn, you're a little teeny tiny acorn now, but one day you will be a mighty oak. You will not be a cherry tree. You will not be a maple tree. You will be an oak tree. It's, one way to look at this today would be, well, we know what that is. That's your DNA. Okay? But they didn't know about DNA. So, notice, early on, we're only 18 pages in and we get this contradiction. This disconnect between what he believes and how he behaves. Right? So, go on a little bit more. Istra, the third daughter, called what by the fox? Psyche. Okay? Psyche is what? Mind. Psychological, psychiatry, psychologist, etc. Okay? She grows up. She's still a somewhat young girl, but she's very beautiful, page 23. And they go off every now and then, and they leave the palace, and they go out to the country, and they see the gray mountain off in the distance. Okay? Notice, do they ever go to the gray mountain? No, they don't. It's always off in the distance. This is because when C.S. Lewis was a little boy growing up in Ireland, because he was born in Ireland, he's Irish, okay, there was a line of hills that he and his older brother could see off in the distance. And they would write stories. They would tell stories to each other about what it would be like to get to those hills. Those hills, for them, represented something like paradise. It would be getting away from home. Why? Because home wasn't paradise. His mother died when he was fairly young. He lived only with his father and his brother. His father was very stern. Okay? God-like, kind of, in the stern sense. And so he created this fantasy of, if only I could go over there, I would what? Be happy. So they have the same kind of myth about the Gray Mountain. But Psyche builds it up a lot more than do the others. And we're told, page 23, stop that. We're told, page 23, she says, middle of the page, when I'm big, I will be a great, great queen, married to the greatest king of all, and he will build me a castle of gold and amber, up there, on the very top of the mountain. Okay, so what's she doing here? What? Fantasizing. What little girl doesn't want to grow up to be a princess? And queen? I mean, what do you get first and foremost if you're queen? Power. You know, you get to tell the little people what to do. Why, you know, the Princess Diaries, why were those two films such big hits? Because it's about an ordinary, everyday, kind of backwards girl who suddenly discovers she's princess of Bagravonia, or whatever the stupid name is, okay? What does the fox say? And prettier than Andromeda you will be. Prettier than Helen. Prettier than Aphrodite herself. You don't say stuff like that. In classical Greek literature, okay, bear in mind, the fox is from that area that produces that literature. Classical Greek literature, you never say anything that compares a person to the gods. Or a person never says, I am more powerful than Mars. Because you know what's going to happen? Mars is going to tap you on the shoulder and take you out. Or the gods are going to. In one of the great classics of Greek tragedy, a play called Agamemnon by Aeschylus, the Greek hero Agamemnon comes home from the Trojan War, and his wife and her boyfriend are plotting against him. He's been gone 10 years, okay, so she's been alone. So they're plotting against him, and she rolls out the red carpet so that when he steps off the boat, he doesn't have to step on the dirt. He steps on the red carpet. We still have red carpets today, right? Where do we see them? All the time. Award ceremonies, the Oscars, the Grammys, all those stupid things. Who walks on them? Our gods and goddesses of our society. Okay? See, the red carpet is reserved for gods and goddesses. And Agamemnon, he looks at it, he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. That's tempting fate. The gods will be angry. She's like, no, they won't. The gods are doing this for you. Come on, trust me. And he walks down the red carpet, walks into his palace, and she and her boyfriend stab him to death. And one of the reasons they stab him to death is they say, what hubris for walking on the red carpet. Okay? He has just compared Psyche to Aphrodite. We already said she's jealous. She doesn't like other people being compared to her. And what does the rule say? Speak words of better omen. In other words, don't compare her to Aphrodite. Compare her to, I don't care, pick your model. Christy Brinkley or, Giselle Bundchen or somebody else, but not one of the gods. And he replies, Bye-bye. It is your words that are ill-omened. The divine nature is not like that. What's the like that? It's not jealous. It has no envy. Well, one of the reasons we come to find out it has no envy is because it has no. There is no divine nature. He's only using that language because he has to still be able to communicate with her in some way. And she is still a believer in what? There is a divinity, Horatio. Hamlet says, there is a divinity, Horatio, okay, that does what? Rough hews, that shapes our destinies, rough hew them as we will. So, Hamlet is saying, okay, there is a divinity up here that shapes our destiny, and what do we do down here? We sit here and we try and shape it too. And destiny is described like a log. The divinity is really shaping it, while we're down here with our little hatchets chipping away wood fragments. Right? It was Redival who ended the good time. What was the good time? When she, and he would go out, have picnics, and look at the Gray Mountain and create stories. So how does Redival end that good time? Notice, where is she in those picnics? In the palace? She's not with them. Why not? Flirting with the guards? What else?
She doesn't like them.
She doesn't like them, and vice versa. Okay. So, she gets caught with a guard, a guy named Taran. The king quickly makes him a eunuch, castrates him. Okay. Solves that problem pretty damn fast. Okay. And Redival, page 27, alludes to Psyche being a goddess. And the rule says, what does she mean, Istra? Come on, speak up, Redival says. I'm sure I've been told often enough how truthful you are, so you'll not deny that you've been worshipped. It's not true. All that happened was a woman with a child asked me to kiss her. Why? Well, I mean, she said her baby would be beautiful if I did. Because you are so beautiful yourself. You forgot that part. And what did you do, Istra? I kissed her. She was a nice woman. I liked her. And don't forget, Redival says, that she then laid down a branch of myrtle at your feet and bowed and put dust on her head. Okay, so she puts myrtle, a sign of supplication, down at Istra's feet, and the lady herself bows down before her and sprinkles dust on her head, like, I am not worthy to be in your presence, O great and mighty Oz. Has this happened before? Yeah, times. How often? I don't know. Twice? More? 10 times? More? Okay. So Psyche's had this happen many times. And the fox says, it doesn't matter. The world thinks it matters a hell of a lot. Why? You are acting like a goddess. You are therefore doing what? You are attracting the ire of the gods. The fox, page 28. It doesn't matter. The divine nature is without jealousy. Those gods, the sort of gods you are always thinking about. What does he mean? Like Ungit, like Aphrodite, like, I don't know, Zeus, like Pluto, Jupiter. All of these gods, he says, what? They are folly and lies of poets. They aren't real. So maybe when I say that he says there's no divinity, he just means there's not really a divinity like that. Maybe there is some kind of divinity out there, but it doesn't take the form of what? Glorified humans. I mean, what is Apollo? He is a glorified, horny man. What is Zeus or Jove? A glorified, horny man. How do you know that? Because he sleeps with anything that moves. Bulls, sheep, cows. Bulls and cows, they're different, you know. Doesn't matter to him. Women, goats, whatever. Okay? If he thinks something beautiful, He's going to go sleep with it. Okay? The fox is saying, there ain't no divinity in that. That's just putting what? Our nature on whatever that nature is. Okay? So, we go on a little bit, and a plague comes. And the people call out for Psyche. Page 31. They want the Princess Istra to come out. Why? They need healing. Let her come. And bread. We need bread. Okay? She says, let me go. Let me go out to them. If they want me to come out, she's kind of saying, what harm can there be in that? If I go out and can touch people and say hello. Okay? So, page 32, she goes out. She goes in among all the foulness. Okay? All the foulness, I think, has two meanings. One, all the sickness. But all the foulness also means all you little people. All you non-members of the royal family. Right? And what happens? She touches, and they fall at her feet. They kiss her feet. They kiss the edge of her robe. They kiss the shadow and the ground where she had trodden. Okay? New Testament parallels there. All right? There seemed to be no end of it. She goes and goes. She gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Why? Is it because she's like Jesus when the woman with the issue of blood touches his hem and he goes, who touched me? And the apostles go, Jesus, what are you talking about? There's 100 people around us. I mean, we're all pushed in. He goes, no. Somebody touched me and I felt power go out from me. Is it like that? Where people are coming up and she's touching him and she's going, bzz, bzz, bzz. No, she's just going out and touching him. So why is she getting paler and paler? Because this is going on for hours. She's getting tired. She's getting worn out. The rule says it will kill her. More's the pity. They'll kill us if she stops. Better her than me. Good king, right? All right. So she comes back in around sunset. She's carried to her bed, and she stays in her bed the next day because she has a fever. But she comes through the fever, page 33. And in her fever, in her wanderings, we're told, she talked most of her gold and amber castle on the ridge of the Gray Mountain. At her worst, there was no look of death on her face. It was as if death, dared not come near her. And when her strength came back, she was more beautiful than before. Why? The childishness had gone. What happened to her between the moment when she goes out from the palace and when she comes out of her illness 2 days later?
Matured.
She's matured. She is transformed from child to woman. How? This experience she has had. Okay? There is a new and severer radiance. And what does the fox say? Terribly does she resemble an undying spirit, even though he doesn't believe in undying spirits. He's saying now she looks like what? Okay, undying spirit means what? Immortal. Who/what is immortal? The gods. Okay? Some of the people who were sick die, some recover. Okay? So, we go on, and I'm going to skip a bunch. Page 39. Now, what are we told about Psyche? Before, they considered her a goddess. That she was the cure for everything that was wrong in Gloam. Now, she's the accursed. Page 38. She says, why do they call me the accursed? Who is dare? Who called you that? We'll send the secret police and they will disappear. And she tells them, people have called her the accursed. Okay? She says, what does it mean, page 39? What did I do to them? Why are they doing this? A rule. Do, you healed them and blessed them and took their filthy disease upon yourself. And these are your thanks. Symbolism? Allegory? She sound like anybody else? Well, the book of Isaiah has an entire chapter. It's either 53, I hate it when this happens, or 51. Pretty sure it's 53. That's all about the quote-unquote suffering servant. Okay? Who's the suffering servant? It's Christ. Took their plagues upon him. By his stripes we are healed. It's, works it into the Messiah. That's what she's saying. Oh, Psyche is a Christ figure, a Christ type. She's not Jesus. She's not a Christian. Don't mistake me, okay? So, a rule says, I could go out there and beat their, how dare they do this to you? Okay? So, the king has got to deal with this plague, and what does he think? Page 41. Trapped, no way out. They will kill me by inches. What have I done that all these miseries should fall upon me? I've been a God-fearing man all my life. Why me, God? He doesn't say, why my daughter? It's, why me? Okay? So, the priest comes in. Why is the priest there? The priest of ENGL. Why is he there?
To deliver a message.
What's the message?
You got to make a sacrifice.
Got to make a sacrifice. Who's the sacrifice have to be?
The accursed.
Got to be the accursed. Who's the accursed?
Psyche.
You got to kill your youngest daughter.
Gotta kill her.
Okay? Agamemnon, whom I mentioned before, he killed his youngest daughter. Should have mentioned that maybe. Before he could go off and fight in the Trojan War, he couldn't get favorable winds to launch his navy. He was told, you will get favorable winds only when you sacrifice your daughter, Iphigenia. He's like, I really don't want to. But he does anyways. Okay? That's the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak, of his wife. It's when he kills Iphigenia that she starts plotting against him. Okay? But he does sacrifice his daughter. He does get the favorable winds. They go off. They fight the Trojan War. They win. They come back. Okay? Guess what? He's going to have to sacrifice the youngest daughter. Is the king really broken up about this? I mean, is he just boo-hooing left and right? He's kind of sad. But, as we already heard him say, better her than me.
He was sad because he thought it was him first.
Yeah. But then he was happy that it wasn't him. Okay? So, the priest talks about the brute. Who's the brute? The god of the gray mountain. Why is he a brute? Brute's like, IQ of 50, arms hanging down to the ground. Why is he a brute? What kind of sacrifice is this? What do they do? Okay, before then, they drug her all up. So she's really not quite with us. They parade her through town on a cart. They take her up to the mountain, Gray Mountain, and they tie her to a tree. For what purpose?
She can't run away.
So she can't run away, and like that scene at, Jurassic Park. They're in their little Ford Explorers, all the electricity goes out, and there's that stupid little goat tied to the rope. And in comes the T-Rex. The T-Rex is going to come eat her. That's what she is. The brute will devour her. Okay? Page 48. The victim must be given to the brute, for the brute is in a mystery, Ungit herself or Ungit's son, the god of the mountain, or both. Notice, we're not really sure. It's a mystery. In the great offering, the victim must be perfect. That's why it's not the king. He's not perfect. Why not a rule?
She's ugly.
She is ugly. She's not just slightly unattractive. She is god-awful, bass-ackward, ugly, okay? Just, one ear up here, the nose down here. Okay? For in holy language, a man so offered is said to be Ungit's husband. That is, if the accursed is a man, he's Ungit's husband. If the accursed is a woman, she is Ungit's son's spouse, wife. A woman is said to be the bride of Ungit's son. Both are called the brute's supper. Well, that's weird. And when the brute is Ungit, it lies with the man. And when it is her son, it lies with the woman. And either way, lying, that is having sex with, is a devouring. There's some weird, stuff going on here. So what does he mean? Lying is eating, not talking oral, okay? So, and when it is your son, it lies with the woman. Either way, there is a devouring. Many different things are said, meaning, question mark, question mark, question mark. We don't really understand this. Why? How far do words go to explain mysteries? About right there. And everything above, wordless. Some say the loving and the devouring are all the same thing. For in sacred language, we say that a woman who lies with a man devours the man, eats him up. And when he lies with her, he eats her up. And the king's like, okay, go on. So the master, the fox, asks the priest, and he says, the fox addresses the king and says, he's talking nonsense. A shadow is to be an animal, which is also a goddess, which is also a god, and loving is to be eating. A child of 6 would talk more sense. Well, what's the fox's problem? It's the last word. Sense. He's understanding everything how. Or let me rephrase it. He's trying to understand everything how. Logically. Rationally. The priest is talking in what kind of language? Heart, passion, desire. He's not talking 2 + 2 = 4. He's talking like those commercials on the radio. If it's Tuesday and it's 5, then it must be green. What the hell? That's what he's getting at. Right? This doesn't make sense. A moment ago, the victim of this abominable sacrifice was to be the accursed, the wickedest person in the whole land, offered as a punishment. Now it's to be the best person in the whole land, the perfect victim, married to the God as reward. Ask him what it means. Why? It can't be both. Why can't it be both? Because classical logic says A does not equal not A. Excuse me. A is, that's right. A is not non-A. It can't be both accursed and perfect. He's just applying classical logic, right? So, page 50, bottom of the page, and we'll stop with this. The priest says we're hearing a lot of Greek wisdom here, but it's not really Greek wisdom. Why? Look at the last half of that last paragraph. They, Greeks, they demand to see such things clearly, as if the gods were no more than letters written in a book, right? Because letters written in a book can be what? Read and understood. He says, I've dealt with the gods for 3 generations of men. I know that they dazzle our eyes and flow in and out of one another like eddies on a river, and nothing that is said clearly can be said truly about them. If you're going to talk about the gods, how do you have to talk about them? With reverence. How else? Roundabout way. Such as myth. You can't talk about the gods in black and white. You can't talk about the gods in logic. All right? Holy places are dark places. It is life and strength, not knowledge and words, that we get in them. Holy wisdom is not clear and thin like water, but thick and dark like blood. Why should the accursed not be both the best and the worst? Okay, we'll stop there. Didn't get as far as I wanted to.